I'm going to talk at you for a few minutes about pride and building pride. 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 You see, I think there's a magic force. I think that there is a force that is so powerful that it makes people come to work early and it causes them to stay late. I think that there's a force that's so powerful that they will take stuff and they'll do it on their own time. I think that there's a force that's so powerful that people will do things and not even get paid. I think there's a force that's so powerful that when it's in a person's belly and in their heart, the work that they produce, the life that they produce, the kids that they produce is amazing. So what is that magic force? Pride. Pride. Now look, I'm not talking about false pride or arrogance. I'm talking about that thing that we know when we see it. You know when you see true pride. When you see a craftsman at work. When you see someone that's proud of what they do. And then live out that pride by living out the letter of their job description. And the spirit. Not just the letter. You see them because they come in a little bit early and they stay a little bit late. They do the job right and they do it till it's done. They're routinely coming up with good ideas. They're rarely sick or absent. And you can always count on them to be there for you, the leader. They have pride. So I came across that magic force. I saw that magic force in play. I saw it in play in the lives of athletes. I saw it in play in the lives of frontline employees when I was responsible for 1,100 people. I saw it routinely in play in neighborhoods and communities that I would go to. Pride. Now what's crazy is I also saw when it wasn't in play, right? I saw when there was no pride. I saw when there was a lack of attention to detail, when people showed up late and didn't care, and on and on and on and on. No pride. And I started to say to myself, this funny thing called pride. It's intangible, you can't touch it, but damn, I can tell when I can see it. Pride. So I said to myself, there's got to be a way that you can develop that, proactively and intentionally develop that, where you can engage a human being and begin to instill, cultivate, develop, and deploy pride. Instill, cultivate, and develop, and deploy pride. So today, and the next couple days, we're going to unpack that concept. Pride. How do I do it? Well, here's the funny thing, and hopefully you have your hand out. You got your hand out right there, right? You got your hand out. Got your hand out? Hand out! Have you seen that commercial with the camel? And the camel's all woot woot. I don't even know what the product is, but a camel goes like this, woot woot. Anyways, pride. Now here's the funny thing. Come to this camera. Right there? Okay, so, there we go. Now, here's the funny thing about pride. There's two kinds of pride. There's organizational pride, and there's individual pride. Organizational pride, now that could also be community. That could be community pride or individual pride. Now, if I want to develop organizational pride or individual pride, there's two different kind of strategies that have to be utilized. It's not the same strategy. It's not the same approach. So what I'm going to do is break it down, just like it's broken down on that flow chart for you. Organizational pride, individual pride. Okay? Organizational pride, individual pride. So first let's talk about organizational pride. So the first step in building organizational pride is this. Why is it important? Why is it important? Why is what we're doing important? If I can't explain to a human being why what they do is important, very, very unlikely that they'll build organizational pride. I found this when I had room attendants. Room attendants. Ladies who cleaned, and sometimes gentlemen, but mostly ladies, who were housekeepers. They cleaned rooms. They cleaned 15 rooms a day, stuck their head in 15 toilets a day. They were room attendants. Not a lot of pride sometimes in that. Except when I began to explain to them that the work that they did was critical. The work that they did was the backbone. That if somebody got into a hotel room and pulled back the sheets and there was hair in the made bed, they would be disgusted and never come back. That if there was a mess in the washroom, they wouldn't come back. And because we were in a casino environment, if they didn't come back, it wasn't just the room rate that we lost all the money that they would normally gamble. So their value to the organization was significant. But no one had explained why what they did was important. Or why what the organization does is important. Now here's the funny thing. Companies spend millions of dollars looking for meaning. Trying to show their employees meaning. They call them social responsibility campaigns. Here's why we're important. Look at all the good giving and philanthropy we're doing. Aren't you proud to work for us? Look at all the philanthropy we do. Philanthropy. Not philandering. Philanthropy. Look at all the philanthropy we do. Aren't you proud to work for us? Aren't you proud to wear our logo? What do you think? Why do you think they're doing that? Because they're trying to generate organizational pride or customer pride. That customers are proud to do business with them because of all the cool things that they do. So step number one, why is what we do important? Why is the organization have any redeeming value? Or our community or whatever. If we can't do that, the likelihood of pride is minimal. Now, number two, why are we any good? Why are we good? Why are we good? Now, here's the funny thing. It's not enough to say that we are important, or the work we do is important, or the organization is important, or whatever. It's not enough to do that. You have to then show that we are any good at it. Sure, this might be important, valuable work, but we suck. Right? This is a valuable and important work, but we're no good at it. Now, what's the key to that? The key to that is standards. The key to that is standards. There has to be some standards. And they have to be objective standards, not subjective standards. So is there an industry standard? Is there a regional standard? Is there a provincial-wide standard? Well, how do you apply this on a community level? Well, we know that there's all kinds of community air quality standards, quality of life standards, educational standards, graduation rates. These are all ways that we can show a community that we're any good. You should be proud to live here. Why? The dropout rate is high. You should be proud to live here. Why? The drug use is high. You should be proud to live here. Why? We have a horrible waste management, and 98% of our garbage goes into the landfill. You should be proud to live here. Why? You can't drink the water. So you can't fool people. You can't fool people. I don't care what kind of YouTube videos you come with and Facebook pages you come up with. You're not going to fool people. So you have to be able to give them objective standards and show how the thing, the company, the organization, the community, the whatever that you're involved in is any good at this work or at this thing. Next. Then you have to proactively and regularly communicate it. You see it on the flow chart there. You got to regularly communicate it. Now, that could be in the form of a newsletter. That could be in the form of a face-to-face meeting. That could be in a form of a lot of things. But you have to regularly communicate it. If you're not regularly communicating it, you're going to have a significant challenge. Why? Because it will fade from people's minds. And the stumble and the fall and the mistake and the we did it wrong, and all of a sudden we start focusing on all these negative things. So we quickly forget that the work we do is important, or the thing that we're doing is important, or that it has some redeeming value. You tried to explain it to me, but I forgot. That was 6-8 months ago, a year ago. So I'm just grinding life out. And then, because no one's regularly reinforcing for me the standard, or that we're any good, or we're exceeding the standard, I think I'm just trading time for money. Or I think I just live in a regular old town where nobody gives a crap. And what happens then? No pride. And I just go through life. No magic force. Yeah, but I've seen people that no matter what environment they're in, there's pride. Exactly. That's true. But the majority of people are not like that. So what could regularly communicating look like? Could be a blog, could be a newsletter, could be a YouTube video that you create once a month. In a workplace setting, could be a weekly meeting, a monthly meeting where we share the progress that we're making. Could be at the beginning of the year, we lay out the reasons that we're important and the things that we do are of value and the difference that we can make here and there and everywhere. Then we lay out the standards of which we're measuring that. And then we regularly follow up once a month with a monthly meeting or an email out from the executive leader that explains it. So it's not enough just to define that the work we do is important or establish that, hey, here's some indicators of why we're any good at it. You then have to regularly communicate it. Evangelize it, if you will. Evangelize the value. Evangelize the worth. So that people are proud. They say, I am excited to be a part of this. Look at the cool stuff we're doing. I'm excited to be a part of this. We're pretty dang good at it. I'm excited to live in this town. We're one of the best in Canada or whatever. Alberta, whatever. We're one of the best in a 25-kilometer radius. I don't care. Ian, this sounds like a lot of work. Well, over the next couple of days, I'll break it down a little bit more for you. But that's the big picture, right? Then how about individual pride? Okay, let's look at individual pride. So individual pride is different than organizational pride. I can take pride in my work and not be proud of who I work for. Right? I can take pride in my specific task and how I do it, but think the group that I work for are a bunch of yahoos. So they're two different things. So on the case of individual pride, come to this camera, Jeff. In the case of individual pride, where does it begin? It begins with me, the leader. Now, this could be a nonprofit. This could be a volunteer. This could be in a nonprofit environment where this individual is a volunteer. It could be paid staff. It could be a lot of things. But somehow, I, as the leader, have to show them the value of what they do. Well, I thought you said we showed the value of the organization. I show the value of what the individual does as it relates to this valuable organization. This is why your specific job is important and how it fits into the bigger thing. Now, specific job could be a volunteer, specific job could be a paid staff member, but this is why what you do fits and is valuable to that bigger goal that we have. That is critical. As soon as I understand as an individual how my daily activity contributes to the whole and that the whole has some redeeming value, now I know I have value and my task has value. If I think that my task is menial, I'll feel menial. If I feel like my task has value, I'll feel valuable. And then if you back that up with some reasonable management and reasonable leadership of that individual, they will continue to feel valued. So the first step is that you're able to show them how what they do is valuable or important. Okay? Secondly, we have to regularly evaluate that. Because I can't just blow smoke. I can't just say, hey, what you do has value. Hey, what you do has meaning. Hey, what you do is important. And then never go back and show them how. That's why performance standards, even for volunteers, here's how you did. Here's some feedback. Thank you so much. And if they don't do great, then you have to give them some feedback. Well, you can't say that to volunteers. They'll never come back. Do you know how many volunteers, you know what they really care about? Did anybody see what I did? And if you coach them a little bit about how it could be done better, they're going to be appreciative. Because too often times they don't hear anything. They don't hear you're no good. They don't hear you were great. They don't hear anything. And in a for-profit setting, in a work setting, thank you, in a work setting, they just want to know where they stand. Good, bad, right, or wrong, just tell me where I'm stand. And tell me the truth. Right? So, valuable and important, but then I've got to have some standard, objective standard, where I'm evaluating that. Kind of similar, isn't it? Then I have to celebrate. What do you mean celebrate? Anytime somebody exceeds the standard, I celebrate. Well done. If they don't exceed the standard, I coach them up. Exceeding the standard, well done. Don't exceed the standard, coach them up. Now here's the funny thing. We'll post some information about employee development in the coming weeks. Employee development. How do I coach a poor performer? But for today, know this. If someone exceeds the standard, a volunteer, a part-time staff, a full-time staff, a community member, whatever, good job. If they don't, let me give you some tips. Let me give you some ideas. I think that it can be formal. I think it can be informal. So informal, great work, great job. I know what sometimes I've done with volunteers after a big volunteer activity. I've gone around and given everybody Hershey Kisses. You know those little Hershey and the Hershey chocolate thing? Hershey Kisses. Hand them out. I can't kiss you, but here you go. Or Band-Aids. After a big special event, give out Band-Aids. Here you go. Why are you giving me a Band-Aid? Because I know you got your butt kicked, but I really appreciate the work that you did today. Silly? Of course. But it's the appreciation. So that's an informal. Formal. Maybe a note. A handwritten note. In today's day and age, a handwritten note. Not a typed, not a, right? Handwritten note. And don't just put it in their file. Send it to their house. Take a moment to handwritten note, send it to their house. Yeah, but how would I do that when I don't have a title? How about just a handwritten note that you put in a coworker's box? Thank you, I saw the way you dealt with that customer. Or thank you, I saw the way that you helped me. Thank you so much. Wow. So whether it's formal or informal. Now look, I'm not a big advocate of Employee of the Month. I don't think Employee of the Month is the way to go. Because that means that one person was great and everybody else sucked. Come on now. Anybody that hits the standard, celebrate. Anybody that achieves the standard, celebrate. And then finally, the last step in that is, that we have to do all that regularly and consistently. And you see that on the flow chart. It's there on the flow chart. Regularly and consistently. So what's this all about? This is all about a quick overview of how do I intentionally develop pride. Ultimately, one of the biggest components of pride is you. Huh? Yeah, it's you. As they do the research, as they do the studies, as they do the investigation, you know what they come to find? They come to find that people derive pride from who they work for. Are they proud of who they work for? And oftentimes the answer is no. Oh, I like them. They're not bad people, but I'm not necessarily proud. Are your people proud of you? Are they proud of who they work for? Because remember, the individuals that they're closely most interact with, that they most interact with and are closely aligned with, that's who the organization is to them. The CEO might be this, that, and whatever, but the line supervisor interacting is the organization. So I think we have to ask ourselves, why would anybody be proud to be led by me? What do I bring? Now, I don't think it has to be big things. I don't think it has to be huge things. But I think it has to be proactive. Maybe the thing you bring is that you're a great listener. Maybe the thing you bring is that you're an effective planner. Maybe the thing you bring is that you're really creative. Maybe the thing you bring is you're very kind. Maybe the thing you bring is you go help them with personal problems and you listen to their and give good recommendations. I don't know. Could be a myriad of things. Could be tangible, could be intangible, but you got to give them something. And I think you should identify it proactively. And then you just got to make sure you go do it. And you go do it regularly. Why would someone be proud to work for me or work for you? And work meaning let you lead them. Because some of you have titles and some of you don't. And you can expand your sphere of influence by understanding some of these concepts. Now, certainly, it's easier to deploy these concepts when you have a formal title. But in many, many instances, you can deploy these concepts when you're a part of a volunteer group. And you can say to the volunteer group, how are we building pride in our volunteers? You can do this as a community leader. How are we building pride in our citizens? How do we get our citizens to come out and volunteer more? If they take pride in their community, they will. Yeah, but nobody takes pride anymore. Then develop it. Think about all the institutions that would have instilled some of the qualities that we're talking about. They're fractionalized at best. The family unit, so on and so on. So from your standpoint, from my standpoint, pride. Okay. In the coming days, or there on the website, you'll be able to access more information as we take each one of these pieces and break it down to a greater degree. Organizational, individual, and then a final thought, which is you. And what do you do to develop that pride? It is definitely a magic force. It is definitely a magic force that you can utilize, Definitely a magic force. And I hope that you will utilize it.